The chandelier's glow bathed the gala hall in gold. My hands shook, clutching the cold microphone. My parents sat up front, their faces stiff, unyielding. They never believed I'd stand here named partner. The CEO's voice boomed, praising my self-made path. Laura Bennett, our firm's new star. My heart thudded loud as distant rain. Champagne's sharp tang lingered on my lips. I scanned the crowd, their eyes on me. Mom's coffee mug flashed in my mind. "You're practical, Laura," she'd said, dismissing me. They saved every dime for Ethan's dreams. My debate award sat dusty, forgotten. Ethan's trophies gleamed in their living room. Clara's note creased, burned in my memory. "Your fire burns brighter," she wrote. Now their shocked stares pierced the air. Ethan clapped his eyes wide, uncertain. My voice steadied, ready to spill truth. I wasn't their shadow anymore. The room hushed, waiting for my words. Years of struggle churned inside me. Diner grease loans, sleepless nights. Clara's faith carried me to this stage. Did they regret choosing him over me? My fingers traced the microphone's smooth edge. Applause rose fierce, drowning their silence. I stood tall, my truth finally free. Would you face your family's betrayal head-on? Or let their doubts fade in silence? Share your story. What would you do? Where are you listening from tonight? Justice is quiet, never weak. Share below. The oak table gleamed under morning light. Coffee's bitter scent filled the kitchen air. My debate award sat dusty, barely noticed. Ethan's trophies shone polished to perfection. I was 18, dreaming of courtrooms. Mom sipped her mug, eyes on Ethan. "You're practical, Laura," she said, voice cold. My chest tightened, a familiar ache rising. Dad rustled papers, mapping Ethan's future. "Medical school's costly," he said, glancing up. Ethan, 15, grinned, carefree and favored. Their savings were his, never mine. I clutched a worn textbook, pages frayed. Its edges scratched my trembling fingers. Clara watched from the doorway, shawl loose. Her lavender scent felt like home. "Your fire burns brighter," she whispered softly. Her words wrapped around my aching heart. I held them close, my only shield. Mom handed me a diner job flyer. The diner's neon buzzed harsh and relentless. Grease clung to my apron, heavy, stubborn. Plates clinked as I rushed between tables. My feet throbbed, dreams keeping me upright. Tips jingled faintly in my pocket. Never enough for law school tuition. I studied under a flickering kitchen bulb. Seattle's rain tapped my window, unyielding. Mom called, gushing over Ethan's science fair. "He's our future doctor," she beamed proudly. My debate win earned a fleeting nod. Their living room framed his photo alone. I walked home, rain soaking my sneakers. Cold seeped through, chilling my bones. Clara's letter waited in my mailbox. Her handwriting curved, bold and steady. "You'll outshine their blindness," she wrote. My fingers traced the ink, hope sparking. The diner's grease smelled like defiance. I'd prove them wrong, step by step. At home, Ethan's trophies mocked me. Each one gleamed a silent accusation. My awards stayed hidden, gathering dust. I felt like a ghost in their story. Mom stirred her coffee, avoiding my gaze. "You'll figure it out," she said dismissively. My throat burned, words trapped inside. I was invisible, a shadow at best. Clara's teacup warmed my cold hands. "They don't see you," she said gently. Her frail voice carried unshakable faith. "You'll build a path they can't ignore." I nodded, her words fueling my resolve. Back at the diner, I scrubbed counters. Grease smeared my hands thick and slick. Each shift carved my dream a little deeper. My laptop hummed, its screen flickering dimly. Law books piled high, spines worn out. Ethan's new car sparkled in their driveway. My bus pass was my only ride. I visited home, craving their warmth. The oak table held Ethan's Harvard letter. Top of his class, Dad said proudly. My community college felt like failure. Nights blurred into coffee-fueled study marathons. My apartment smelled of stale takeout. Clara's letters lay beside my books. Her faith burned brighter than their doubt. I won another debate, voice steady, clear. The crowd roared, but my parents didn't come. their absence cut sharp as winter wind. My award's cold edges grounded me. The diner's noise drowned my inner doubts. I balanced trays, my arms aching daily. Each tip saved brought law school closer. I'd rise above their chosen sun. Clara's shawl hung on my chair. Its lavender scent soothed my tired soul. "They'll see you one day," she'd said. Her words echoed, pushing me forward. I applied for loans, my stomach churning. The bank's lights glared, forms piling high. Numbers blurred, but I signed anyway. My future rested on borrowed hope. Alone, I studied through endless nights. Seattle's traffic hummed a constant drone. Clara's letters were my guiding light. Her belief outweighed their cold dismissal. One night, I checked their bank account. A glitch revealed their secret savings. Every dollar marked for Ethan's tuition. My name was missing, erased entirely. My heart sank heavy as wet stone. The diner's neon flickered in my mind. Clara's voice whispered, "You are enough." I'd build my empire no matter what. Their living room smelled of polished wood. Ethan's trophies stood tall, always celebrated. My awards stayed tucked in a drawer. I was a footnote in their pride. Mom's coffee mug sat on the table. Its steam curled indifferent to my pain. Dad's papers outlined Ethan's bright future. I was left to fend for myself. I stood in the diner, apron stained. The neon's buzz felt like my pulse. Clara's letter crinkled in my pocket. Her words were louder than their silence. I'd fight for my place, my worth. Law school wasn't just a dream now. It was my rebellion, my quiet justice. Their blindness wouldn't dim my fire. My laptop flickered in the dim apartment. Rain pattered against the window, relentless. The bank statement loaded, numbers stark. I was 22, drowning in loans. Ethan's tuition was fully paid, theirs. My name was missing, erased completely. My chest tightened, breath caught sharp. The screen's glow burned my tired eyes. Clara's letter lay beside me, creased. Her ink smelled faintly of old paper. "You're enough," she'd written, words bold. I traced the lines, my fingers trembling. Their betrayal stung cold as Seattle rain. Why was I never their priority? The apartment's walls felt too close. I walked to the diner, apron heavy. Neon buzzed, casting shadows on tables. Plates clinked as I served late customers. My dreams of law school felt distant. Grease clung to my skin, unyielding. Each shift drained me, but I pushed. Clara's faith was my only light. Her words echoed through my exhaustion. Back home, I opened the statement again. Numbers glared, confirming their choice. Ethan's future funded, mine left empty. My heart sank heavy as wet stone. I sat on my sagging couch, alone. The traffic's hum droned outside, constant. My law books piled high, spines cracked. I studied, fueled by bitter resolve. Clara called, her voice frail but warm. "They'll see your strength," she said softly. Her teacup clinked in the background. I clutched my phone, her words grounding. My apartment smelled of stale takeout. A single bulb flickered, casting shadows. I highlighted cases, my pen scratching. Law school was my rebellion, my fight. I visited home, hoping for connection. The oak table gleamed, coffee steaming. Mom praised Ethan's med school grades. Top of his class, she beamed. My debate win went unmentioned, forgotten. Their living room smelled of polish. Ethan's photo hung framed in gold. My awards stayed tucked in a drawer. I stood in their kitchen, feeling small. Dad's papers outlined Ethan's bright path. Harvard's proud, he said, eyes gleaming. My community college felt like shame. My sneakers squeaked on their polished floor. Rain streaked the windows, blurring outside. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Their silence was louder than words. Clara's letter crinkled in my pocket. "Your fire burns brighter," she'd written. I held it close, my anchor still. I'd prove my worth no matter what. At the diner, I scrubbed counters hard. Grease smeared my hands, stubborn, slick. Customers' chatter faded into white noise. My dreams kept me moving, unyielding. Nights blurred into study sessions relentless. My laptop's hum was my only company. Law cases filled my mind complex. I'd outshine their blindness, I swore. I checked the bank statement one last time. Their savings account mocked my struggle. Every dollar was Ethan's, not mine. My resolve hardened sharp as steel. The diner's neon flickered outside dim. My apron hung heavy with grease. I imagined courtrooms, my voice strong. Their choice wouldn't define my future. Clara sent another letter, her handwriting shaky. "You'll rise above," she wrote, ink smudged. I pressed it to my chest, warm. Her faith fueled me through the dark. I walked home, rain soaking my coat. Seattle's streets glistened under streetlights. My sneakers squished cold against skin. Each step felt like defiance mine. At the library, I studied past midnight. Fluorescent lights buzzed harsh and bright. Law books smelled of dust promise. I highlighted pages, my pen steady. My loans grew, numbers climbing fast. The bank's forms felt endless, daunting. I signed them, my stomach nodding. My future rested on borrowed dreams. Mom called, her voice distant, distracted. "Ethan's internship is at Mass General," she said. My law school acceptance went unmentioned. Their pride was his, never mine. I sat in my apartment, walls bare. The traffic's drone filled the silence. Clara's letter lay open, words bold. I'd build my path brick by brick. The diner's coffee machine hissed loudly. I poured a cup, its warmth grounding. My hands shook, but my mind cleared. Their betrayal wouldn't break me now. I won another debate, voice unwavering. The crowd clapped, their cheers echoing. My parents' absence cut sharp deep. My award's weight felt like victory. Their living room smelled of lavender. Ethan's trophy stood tall, always polished. My award stayed hidden, gathering dust. I was a shadow in their eyes. At the diner, I balanced trays, exhausted. Grease stained my apron, a constant reminder. Customers tipped coins, barely enough. Each shift pushed me toward my goal. I studied under my apartment's dim light. The bulb flickered, threatening to die. Law cases danced in my tired mind. I'd rise above their chosen sun. Clara's voice echoed in my memory. "They don't see you, but I do." Her teacup's clink lingered, soft, warm. Her faith was stronger than their doubt. I checked the bank statement once more. The numbers burned cold and final. Ethan's future was funded, secure. Mine was loan's grit and Clara's words. My heart raced, anger mixing with resolve. The diner's neon buzzed in my mind. I'd fight for my place, my worth. Their blindness wouldn't dim my light. My first case win felt hollow, fleeting. The law firm's coffee pot hissed softly. Case files cluttered, my desk edges worn. I was 28, finally a lawyer. Their living room smelled of lavender polish. Ethan's photo hung framed in gold. My heart sank heavy with silence. I stood in their kitchen, seeking warmth. Mom stirred her coffee, eyes on Dad. "He's saving lives," she said, beaming. Ethan's residency was their only pride. My bar exam pass went unmentioned. The oak table gleamed cold under touch. I clutched my briefcase, knuckles white. Why was I always their afterthought? Clara's frail hand squeezed mine gently. Her teacup clinked warm against my palm. "You're enough," she whispered, voice steady. Her lavender shawl brushed my arm. I nodded, her words sparking resolve. Their dismissal burned sharp as glass. My award sat dusty in a drawer. Ethan's trophies shone, always polished. Back at the firm, I won again. The courtroom's wooden bench felt solid. Clients thanked me, their voices grateful. Yet my parents' silence screamed louder. I visited home, hoping for change. Dad read Ethan's residency acceptance letter. "Top hospital," he said, eyes gleaming. My case win earned a fleeting glance. The living room's light felt too bright. Rain streaked their windows, blurring outside. I stood by the shelf, awards ignored. Their pride was Ethan's, never mine. I spoke up, voice trembling slightly. I passed the bar, I said firmly. Mom looked up, her spoon pausing. "That's nice, Laura." she said flatly. My chest tightened, anger rising fast. Their oak table held Ethan's photo. My debate awards stayed hidden, forgotten. I felt like a ghost among them. Clara called, her voice weak but sure. They'll see you, she said softly. Her letter crinkled in my bag. Your fire burns brighter, she wrote. I traced the ink, my resolve hardening. The firm's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Case files piled high, my only solace. I'd prove my worth without their praise. At home, their kitchen smelled of coffee. Ethan's trophies gleamed, mocking my effort. I stood alone, my briefcase heavy. Their silence cut deeper than words. I drove back. Seattle's rain relentless. My car's wipers squeaked, rhythm steady. The city's lights blurred through wet glass. My dreams were mine, not theirs. The firm's office felt like home now. My desk smelled of coffee, paper, ink. I worked, late case files my shield. Their neglect fueled my quiet rebellion. I won, a high-profile case, headlines glowing. The newspaper crinkled in my hands. Clients clapped, but my parents didn't. Their absence stung sharp as winter. Mom called, her voice distant, distracted. Ethan's presenting at a conference, she said. My win was a footnote ignored. My throat burned, words trapped inside. I sat in my office, lights dim. The coffee pot hissed, steam curling. Clara's letter lay open, words bold. I'd build my path brick by brick. Their living room flashed in my mind. Ethan's photo hung, their pride eternal. My awards stayed tucked away, invisible. I was a shadow in their story. I stood in court, voice steady, clear. The judge nodded, my argument strong. Clients hugged me, their relief palpable. Yet my parents' silence echoed louder. I drove to their house, heart heavy. The oak table held Ethan's new award. Future surgeon, Dad said, voice proud. My name was never their victory. Clara's shawl hung on my chair. Its lavender scent soothed my soul. They don't see you, she'd said. Her faith was stronger than their doubt. I opened my briefcase, files spilling. The firm's clock ticked steady, relentless. I worked through nights, eyes burning. Their blindness wouldn't dim my light. Mom's coffee mug sat on the table. Its steam curled, indifferent to me. Dad's papers praised Ethan's bright future. I was left to fend alone. I stood in their kitchen, voice rising. I won a major case, I said. Dad looked up, his brow barely lifting. Ethan saving lives, he replied. My heart cracked, anger surging fast. The living room's polish smelled sterile. Ethan's trophies stood tall, always celebrated. My awards were dust, always ignored. I drove home, rain pounding my windshield. The city's lights flickered, cold and distant. Clara's letter crinkled in my pocket. Her words were louder than their silence. At the firm, I stayed late again. The coffee pot's hum was my companion. Case files stacked high, my only proof. I'd rise above their chosen son. I won another case, clients cheering. The courtroom's air felt thick, victorious. My name in headlines bold and clear, yet their silence cut sharp, relentless. Clara's voice echoed in my memory. You'll outshine their blindness, she'd said. Her teacup's clink lingered, soft, warm. I'd fight for my place, my worth. Their kitchen table flashed before me. Ethan's photo sat framed, untouchable. My awards stayed hidden, gathering dust. I was a footnote in their pride. I sat in my office, pen steady. The desk's wood felt warm, grounding. I drafted arguments, my mind sharp. Their neglect wouldn't steal my fire. Rain soaked my coat at Clara's funeral. The gravestone felt cold under my fingers. Her name gleamed, etched in gray stone. I was 29, my heart shattered. Clara's shawl lay folded in my bag. Its lavender scent lingered, faint, fading. My parents stood, distant faces unmoved. Mom didn't cry for her own mother. Clara exaggerated your potential, Dad said. His words cut sharp as winter wind. My chest tightened, grief swallowing me. The cemetery's silence pressed against me. Wet grass clung to my worn shoes. I stood alone, Clara's faith gone. Was I chasing a pointless dream? Back at the firm, files piled high. The coffee pot hissed steam, curling slowly. My desk felt foreign cold and empty. Clara's words echoed now, just memories. I opened her last letter, ink smudged. "You're enough," she'd written, voice clear. My fingers trembled, tracing her handwriting. Her belief had been my anchor. The office's fluorescent lights buzzed softly. My law degree hung framed, hard-earned. I'd won cases yet felt hollow. Their silence drowned my small victories. I sat alone, rain tapping the window. Seattle's gray sky mirrored my heart. Clara's savings check arrived that week, her final gift wrapped in trust. I clutched the check paper crisp. Her lavender scent clung to it faintly. "She believed in me," I whispered, but her absence left me unmoored. My parents' words replayed cold, relentless. "Ethan's the future," Dad had said. My bar exam win went unnoticed. I was a shadow in their story. The firm's clock ticked steady, unyielding. I stared at case files, eyes burning. A high-profile case waited, my biggest yet. Could I rise without Clara's voice? I drove home, streets slick with rain. My car's wipers squeaked, rhythm heavy. The city's lights blurred, cold, distant. My dreams felt fragile, almost lost. At my apartment walls, bare quiet. The heater hummed, warmth barely reaching. Clara's shawl lay on my chair. Its softness felt like her embrace. I won the case, headlines praising me. The courtroom's air was thick, victorious. Clients hugged me, their gratitude warm. Yet my parents' absence stung deeper. I sat in my office, lights dimmed. Coffee's bitter scent filled the air. My degree gleamed but felt empty. Was success worth this endless fight? Their living room flashed in my mind. Ethan's photo hung framed in gold. My awards stayed hidden, gathering dust. I was invisible, always second. I stood in court, voice steady, clear. The judge nodded, my argument strong. Colleagues cheered, their voices loud, real. But my parents' silence screamed louder. I visited home, craving their acknowledgement. The oak table held Ethan's new award. Future surgeon, Dad said, eyes proud. My name was never their triumph. Rain pounded my windshield, driving back. The city's glow felt cold, unreachable. Clara's letter crinkled in my pocket. Her faith was stronger than their doubt. At the firm, I worked late again. Case files smelled of ink, determination. My pen scratched, marking my resolve. I'd prove my worth despite them. Mom called, her voice distant, flat. "Ethan's presenting at a conference," she said. My case win went unmentioned, forgotten. My throat burned, words trapped inside. I sat alone, my apartment silent. The traffic's drone filled the emptiness. Clara's shawl lay folded, lavender faint. I'd lost my guide, my strength. A colleague knocked, her smile kind. "You're killing it, Laura," she said. Her words warmed but didn't fill me. Could I keep fighting without Clara? I opened her letter, hands unsteady. "Your fire burns brighter," she'd written. My heart ached, her absence heavy. Was I enough without her here? The office coffee pot hissed again. Its steam curled, familiar, grounding me. I stared at my degree framed. I'd built this life brick by brick. Their kitchen table haunted my thoughts. Ethan's trophies gleamed, always celebrated. My awards stayed tucked, gathering dust. I was a footnote in their pride. I stood in my apartment, walls bare. Rain's rhythm echoed my racing heart. Clara's savings check sat on my desk. Her belief was my final gift. I whispered to myself, voice breaking. "I'm still here," I said softly. The heater's hum felt like encouragement. I'd fight for Clara, for me. My desk overflowed with case files. Coffee's bitter steam curled in the air. Seattle's skyline glowed through my window. I was 33, no longer waiting. Their silence screamed louder than ever. Ethan's wedding invite sat unopened, crisp. My heart hardened, steady, unyielding now. The firm's clock ticked relentless, steady. My law degree hung framed, my proof. Clara's shawl lay folded, lavender faint. Her voice echoed, "You're enough." I'd lost her, but not her faith. My pen scratched marking case notes. Their neglect fueled my quiet rebellion. I'd build my empire brick by brick. Ethan's invite smelled of expensive paper. Their pride for him stung, always fresh. My awards stayed hidden, gathering dust. I was done chasing their approval. I sat late, office lights dimmed low. The coffee pot hissed, my only companion. I researched scholarships inspired by Clara. Her savings could lift others like me. My laptop hummed, screen casting shadows. Articles on self-funded students piled up. My fingers tapped resolve, growing stronger. I'd create a legacy, not their story. Colleagues stopped by, their smiles warm. "You're unstoppable, Laura," one said softly. Her coffee mug warmed her hands. Their faith felt real, unlike my parents. I drove home, rain slick on asphalt. My car's wipers squeaked, rhythm steady. The city's lights blurred, cold, distant. My dreams were mine, not theirs. At my apartment walls, bare quiet. The heater hummed, warmth barely reaching. Clara's letter lay open, ink smudged. "Your fire burns brighter," she'd written. I traced her words, my heart steady. The scholarship idea took root, alive. I'd honor Clara, not their blindness. My resolve felt like steel, unyielding. The firm's conference room smelled of polish. I pitched cases, my voice sharp, clear. Colleagues nodded their respect, hard-earned. I was no longer their overlooked daughter. Mom called, her voice distant, flat. "Ethan's wedding is next month," she said. My latest case win went unmentioned. Their silence cut sharp as glass. I stood in my office, files stacked. The coffee scent grounded my thoughts. I typed scholarship plans, fingers flying. This was my fight, my justice. Their living room flashed in my mind. Ethan's photo hung framed in gold. My awards stayed tucked, gathering dust. I was a shadow in their pride. I met a mentor, her eyes kind. "You're building something big," she said. Her briefcase clicked shut, sound crisp. Her words echoed Clara's, lifting me. I worked late, Seattle's skyline glittering. My desk lamp flickered, casting warmth. Scholarship forms piled high, my future. I'd lift others as Clara lifted me. The firm's printer hummed, pages warm. I drafted bylaws, my pen steady. Clara's savings would fund the start. Her belief was my guiding light. I drove to the bank, heart racing. Fluorescent lights glared, forms piling high. I opened an account for the scholarship. My signature felt like a vow. Their kitchen table haunted my thoughts. Ethan's trophies gleamed, always celebrated. My awards stayed hidden, gathering dust. I'd write my own story now. I stood in my office, lights dim. Coffee's warmth clung to my mug. My laptop glowed, scholarship plans alive. I was no longer their afterthought. Colleagues gathered, praising my latest win. "Your grit's inspiring," one said. Voice warm, their coffee cups clinked, a small toast. Their faith fueled my quiet resolve. I sat alone, apartment walls bare. Rain tapped the window, rhythm steady. Clara's shawl lay folded, lavender faint. Her words carried me through doubt. I typed late, my fingers tireless. The scholarship's name took shape, Clara's fire. It felt right, her legacy alive. I'd prove my worth despite them. Their living room smelled of polish. Ethan's photo hung, their pride eternal. My awards stayed tucked, gathering dust. I was done being their shadow. I stood in court, voice unwavering. The judge nodded, my argument strong. Clients thanked me, their relief palpable. Yet their silence echoed, always louder. I drove home, streets slick with rain. The city's lights flickered, cold, distant. Clara's letter crinkled in my pocket. Her faith was stronger than their doubt. At the firm, I worked past midnight. Case files smelled of ink, determination. My pen scratched, marking my path. I'd rise above their chosen son. Mom's call replayed, her voice indifferent. "Ethan's wedding will be beautiful," she said. My scholarship plan went unmentioned. My throat burned, resolve hardening fast. I sat at my desk, skyline glowing. Coffee steam curled, grounding my thoughts. I drafted the scholarship's mission statement. It was my rebellion, my justice. The firm's clock ticked steady, relentless. My law degree hung my hard-earned proof. Clara's shawl lay folded, lavender faint. I'd build a legacy, not their story. I stood in my apartment, heart steady. Rain's rhythm echoed my quiet strength. The scholarship was my fight now. I'd honor Clara, not their blindness. Would you plan a quiet rebellion? Or would you let their neglect fade? Share your story. How do you rise? My hand steadied writing my gala speech. The office lamp flickered, casting soft shadows. Coffee's bitter steam curled around me. I was 38, ready to rise. Clara's letter lay creased beside me. Its lavender scent lingered, faint grounding. Their neglect wouldn't define me anymore. The firm's clock ticked steady, relentless. My pen scratched words flowing with purpose. The scholarship plan was nearly complete. I'd honor Clara, not their blindness. My silk dress hung smooth, waiting. Its fabric rustled, whispering quiet strength. The gala loomed, my moment near. I'd speak my truth, no holding back. Seattle's skyline glittered through my window. Case files piled high, my hard-earned proof. I drafted the speech, heart racing fast. Their faces would pale, I knew it. Clara's words echoed, "Your fire burns." My fingers traced her ink, resolve firm. The scholarship would lift others up. My legacy would outshine their doubt. I stood in my office, lights dim. The coffee pot hissed steam, curling softly. Colleagues stopped by, their smiles warm. "Your speech will stun them," one said. I nodded, their faith fueling me. My laptop hummed, screen glowing bright. I typed the scholarship's final details. Clara's savings would spark its start. Their living room flashed in my mind. Ethan's photo hung framed in gold. My award stayed hidden, gathering dust. I was done being their shadow. I practiced my speech, voice steady. The office's air felt thick, expectant. My words wove struggle into triumph. I'd expose their neglect quietly, firmly. The firm's printer hummed, pages warm. My speech printed crisp, ready to deliver. Clara's shawl lay folded, lavender faint. Her belief carried me through doubt. I drove home, rain slick on asphalt. My car's wipers squeaked, rhythm steady. The city's lights blurred, cold, distant. My resolve felt like steel, unyielding. At my apartment walls, bare quiet. The heater hummed, warmth barely reaching. I rehearsed again, my voice rising. "I'm ready," I whispered to myself. Colleagues gathered, refining my speech. "Make them feel it," one said. Her coffee mug warmed her hands. Their support felt like Clara's embrace. I stood in my office, skyline glowing. The desk's wood felt warm, grounding. My speech was my rebellion, my justice. I'd reclaim my story, no apologies. Their kitchen table haunted my thoughts. Ethan's trophies gleamed, always celebrated. My awards stayed tucked, gathering dust. I'd write my own legacy now. I sat late, my pen tireless. The scholarship's name shone Clara's fire. It felt right, her spirit alive. I'd prove my worth despite them. The firm's conference room smelled of polish. I pitched the scholarship, voice unwavering. Colleagues nodded, their respect hard-earned. I was no longer their overlooked daughter. Mom called, her voice distant, flat. "Ethan's wedding was perfect," she said. My case wins went unmentioned, forgotten. My throat burned, resolve hardening fast. I stood in court, voice sharp, clear. The judge nodded, my argument strong. Clients thanked me, their relief palpable. Yet their silence echoed, always louder. I drove to the gala venue early. Chandeliers gleamed, casting golden light. My silk dress rustled, confidence rising. Their faces would freeze, I knew it. At my desk, I polished my speech. The coffee pot's hum steadied me. Clara's letter lay open, ink smudged. "Your fire burns brighter," she'd written. I traced her words, my heart steady. The scholarship would be my legacy. I'd lift others as Clara lifted me. Their blindness wouldn't dim my light. Colleagues clapped reading my draft. "It's powerful," Laura once said warmly. Her briefcase clicked shut, sound crisp. Their faith echoed Clara's lifting me. I stood alone, apartment walls bare. Rain tapped the window, rhythm steady. Clara's shawl lay folded, lavender faint. Her words carried me through darkness. The firm's printer hummed again, pages warm. My speech felt alive, words sharp. I visualized the gala, their shocked faces. I'd speak my truth, no turning back. I drove home, streets slick with rain. The city's lights flickered, cold, distant. My silk dress hung ready, waiting. I was no longer their afterthought. At the firm, I rehearsed once more. The conference room's polish smelled sharp. My voice rose steady, unwavering now. I'd expose their neglect, my justice. Their living room flashed in my mind. Ethan's photo hung, their pride eternal. My awards stayed tucked, gathering dust. I was done being their footnote. I sat at my desk, skyline glittering. Coffee steam curled, grounding my thoughts. The scholarship's bylaws were nearly done. Clara's savings would spark its flame. I stood in my apartment, heart racing. Rain's rhythm echoed my quiet strength. My speech was my weapon, my truth. I'd reclaim my place, my worth. The chandelier's golden glow bathed the hall. My silk dress rustled smooth against skin. The microphone felt cold, heavy in hand. I was 38, my moment here. My parents sat up front, faces stiff. Ethan clapped softly, eyes wide, uncertain. My heart pounded loud as thunder. The CEO's voice echoed clear, commanding. "Laura Bennett, our new named partner." The crowd roared, their applause deafening. My chest tightened, resolve burning bright. I stepped forward, my voice steady. The room hushed, all eyes on me. Clara's shawl flashed in my mind. Her lavender scent lingered, grounding me. I spoke of diner shifts, grease-stained aprons, loans piled high, nights without sleep. My parents' eyes widened, faces paling. They'd never known my silent struggle. The oak table haunted my words. Ethan's trophies gleamed, their pride eternal. My awards stayed dusty, always ignored. I was their shadow until now. I told of Clara, her unwavering faith. "Your fire burns brighter," she'd written. My fingers trembled, clutching the microphone. Her belief carried me to the stage. The crowd leaned in, faces rapt. My voice rose, steady, unyielding now. I spoke of loans, of borrowed dreams. Their silence had fueled my quiet fight. The gala's air felt thick, electric. Champagne flutes gleamed on polished tables. I announced Clara's fire, my scholarship, for those who rise without support. The room erupted, applause shaking walls. My parents froze, their eyes averted. Ethan clapped louder, his gaze shifting. I stood tall, no longer invisible. Mom's coffee mug flashed in my mind. "You're practical, Laura," she'd said coldly. Her words stung, but I was free. Their blindness couldn't dim my light. I paused, the microphone's weight grounding. The chandelier's glow warmed my skin. I spoke of Clara's savings, her gift. It would lift others as she lifted me. The crowd stood, their cheers overwhelming. Colleagues nodded, their pride palpable. My heart swelled, closure washing over. I'd reclaimed my story, my worth. Dad approached, his voice low, hesitant. "We're proud, Laura," he said awkwardly. His words felt hollow, too late now. I nodded, my smile calm, steady. Ethan hugged me, his embrace tight. I didn't know he whispered softly. His cologne smelled sharp, unfamiliar now. I was no longer his shadow. The gala hall buzzed, voices warm. My silk dress rustled, confidence soaring. I stood under the chandelier, free. Their silence no longer held me. I walked off stage, my steps sure. The crowd's applause followed, loud, real. Clara's letter crinkled in my mind. Her faith had carried me here. Their living room flashed before me. Ethan's photo hung framed in gold. My award stayed hidden, gathering dust. I'd written my own story now. I stood with colleagues, their smiles warm. "You own that stage," one said. Her coffee cup clinked a small toast. Their faith echoed Clara's, lifting me. The gala's lights dimmed, music swelling. Champagne's fizz tickled my tongue. My parents' lingered faces unreadable now. I didn't need their pride anymore. I drove home, Seattle's skyline glittering. Rain tapped my windshield, rhythm steady. My silk dress lay folded, task done. I was enough, always had been. The firm's office felt like home. Case files smelled of ink, determination. My law degree hung my proof. I'd built this life brick by brick. Their kitchen table haunted my thoughts. Ethan's trophies gleamed, their pride eternal. My awards stayed tucked, gathering dust. I was no longer their footnote. I sat in my car, city glowing. The radio hummed soft and steady. Clara's voice echoed, "You're enough." Her belief was my guiding light. The gala's applause replayed in my mind. The chandelier's glow had warmed me. My speech had spilled years of truth. I'd face their neglect, my justice. Mom's words echoed cold, dismissive. "Clara exaggerated your potential," she'd said. Her coffee mug sat steam curling. I'd proven her wrong for me. I stood in my apartment, walls bare. The heater hummed, warmth barely reaching. Clara's shawl lay folded, lavender faint. Her faith had carried me through. The scholarship was real, now alive. Clara's fire would lift others up. My pen scratched, drafting its future. I'd honor her, not their blindness. The crowd's faces flashed, their cheers loud. My parents' silence had lost its power. I stood tall, my heart unburdened. I was free, my truth spoken. Seattle's skyline glowed through my office window. My new desk smelled of polished oak. The coffee mug warmed my steady hands. I was 38, finally whole again. Clara's shawl lay folded, lavender faint. Her letter rested open, ink smudged. Their neglect no longer defined my worth. The gala's applause lingered in my heart. My speech had bared years of pain. Their pale faces faded from my mind. I was no longer their silent shadow. My office felt calm, a true sanctuary. The heater hummed, wrapping me in warmth. Clara's fire, my scholarship stood strong. Its plaque gleamed, etched with her name. I stood at the scholarship's first event. Recipients hugged me, their eyes shining bright. Their gratitude warmed me like Clara's embrace. I'd lifted them as she lifted me. Rain tapped my window, soft and steady. Seattle's lights flickered, alive with hope. My heart felt light, unburdened at last. Their blindness couldn't dim my fire. Mom called, her voice hesitant, strained. "We're proud, Laura," she said, words hollow. Her coffee mug flashed in my memory. "You're practical," she'd once dismissed me. My throat tightened, but I stayed calm. Her words stung once, not anymore. I nodded silently, my peace found. Their pride wasn't mine to chase. Ethan texted his message, brief, earnest. "I see you now," he wrote quietly. His cologne's sharp scent lingered faintly. My worth wasn't theirs to grant. My apartment walls held new photos. Me in court, my degree framed proudly. Clara's shawl hung, a quiet reminder. Her faith had carried me here. I mentored students, their dreams vibrant. The scholarship office smelled of fresh ink. Applications piled high, stories like mine. I'd built a legacy, not their story. Their living room flashed in my thoughts. Ethan's trophies gleamed, their pride fading. My awards hung framed, no longer hidden. I was no longer their footnote. I stood in court, my voice unwavering. The judge nodded, my argument sharp, clear. Clients thanked me, their relief warm. My work was my joy, my truth. The coffee pot hissed steam, curling gently. My office window framed the skyline's glow. I typed scholarship updates, fingers steady. Clara's fire would grow like me. I drove home, rain slick on asphalt. My car's wipers squeaked, rhythm steady. The city's lights glowed warm, inviting. I was enough, always had been. Colleagues stopped by, their smiles genuine. "You're changing lives," one said softly. Her coffee mug clinked, a small toast. Their faith echoed Clara's, lifting my soul. I sat at my desk, skyline glittering. The scholarship's plaque shone proud real. I'd turned pain into lasting purpose. Clara's words lived in every student. Their kitchen table haunted me less. Ethan's photo hung their pride distant. My life was mine, no longer theirs. I'd built my path brick by brick. I stood at the scholarship event proud. Recipients shared stories, their voices strong. Their hugs warmed me, hearts wide open. I'd created something bigger than myself. The office's air smelled of new paper. My pen scratched, drafting new plans. Clara's shawl lay folded, lavender faint. Her legacy was mine to carry. I walked Seattle's streets, rain soft. The city's glow felt like home now. My steps were sure, my heart light. I'd found closure my own way. Mom's coffee mug faded from memory. "You're practical," she'd said, voice cold. Those words stung once, now powerless. I'd proven my fire, my worth. I sat in my apartment, walls alive. Photos of students hung, their smiles bright. The heater hummed warmth, wrapping me. I was no longer their afterthought. Clara's voice echoed, "You're enough." Her letter lay open, ink smudged. My scholarship was her dream alive. I'd turned betrayal into lasting good. I stood in my office, skyline glowing. The coffee steam curled, grounding my thoughts. My law degree hung, my hard-earned proof. I'd built this life, my legacy. I mentored another student, her eyes bright. Her story mirrored mine, full of grit. The scholarship office buzzed alive, hopeful. I was building bridges for others. Their living room faded from my heart. Ethan's trophies were just metal now. My awards hung proud, no longer dusty. I was the author of my story. I drove through Seattle, rain, soft, gentle. The city's lights sparkled, warm, welcoming. My car's radio hummed soft and steady. I'd found my place, my peace. The scholarship event replayed in my mind. Recipients' voices echoed strong, unbroken. Their dreams were mine to nurture now. Clara's fire would burn for them. I sat at my desk, pen steady. The skyline glowed, a canvas of hope. I typed new plans, my heart full. I'd turned pain into purpose forever. I stood in court, my voice strong. The judge's nod felt like validation. Clients' gratitude warmed me deeply. Felt my work was my strength, my home. The office's air smelled of fresh coffee. My desk held photos of scholarship students. Their faces shone, dreams taking flight. I'd given them what Clara gave me. Seattle's rain fell soft, cleansing now. The city's glow wrapped me in warmth. My heart was steady, my path clear. I'd built a legacy, my own. Your story isn't over, nor is mine. Have you found closure after betrayal? Share your journey, what keeps you strong.